Then Jesus entered and walked through Jericho. There was a man there, his name Zacchaeus, the head tax man, and quite rich. He wanted desperately to see Jesus, but the crowd was in his way. He was a short man and couldn't see over the crowd, so he ran on ahead and climbed up in a sycamore tree so that he could see Jesus when he came by. When Jesus got to that tree, he looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, hurry down. Today's my day to be a guest in your home." Zacchaeus scrambled out of the tree, hardly believing his good luck, delighted to take Jesus home with him. Everyone who saw the incident was indignant and grumped. What business does he have getting cozy with this crook? Zacchaeus just stood there a little stunned. He stammered apologetically, "Master, I give away half my income to the poor, and if I'm caught cheating, I pay 4 times the damages." Jesus said, "Today is salvation day in this home. Here he is, Zacchaeus, son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to find and restore the lost." "Master, I give away half of my income to the poor." I know that the Revised Standard Version and most versions say, "I will give away." But in this instance, the Message translation is accurate to the original Greek. The original is in the present tense, not the future. I give away half my income, and if I discover that I've cheated anyone, I repay 4 times the damages. Now that, my friends, is generous living in capital letters. So here's what we know. Zacchaeus was very wealthy. All this giving doesn't seem to have made him poor at all. He's disabled, or at least he is short enough that his stature is enshrined in scriptural memory of him. He is quite powerful. He is the chief tax collector, the head guy. And he is deeply disliked. By virtue of his profession, he is a collaborator with the enemy, and so people instinctively recoil from him as a crook, whether he is or not. Because apparently he's a very righteous man, giving far beyond the 10% tithe. And Jesus calls out to him. Of all the people he could have chosen to have his lunch with that day, he chose Zacchaeus. Now clearly, Jesus does not require goodness before he reaches out. We see that over and over in the Gospels. The Bible teaches us that we are loved first, and then we loved. We are forgiven first, and then we forgive. Our good works do not get us into God's graces. God's grace allows us to be good. But here's the other biblical truth. What we do matters. It matters. What you do affects how your heart feels and how your mind thinks. When you live generously, your feelings of trust and your thoughts of faith build up. You do, and then you believe. We usually think of it the other way around, right? But you act, and your feelings follow. Our 12-step friends have a rather crude way, but very accurate way of putting this truth. They say, just fake it until you make it. What they know, what psychologists know, what the Bible knows, is that you become what you do. Did you know that smiling increases your endorphins? You may not feel like smiling, but when you smile, it does help lift you up. Apparently, people who have had Botox injections for facelift find that their mood is uplifted because they can't scalp. So humor me here for a minute. We're going to try an experiment. You can close your eyes if you want. You're just going to take a few deep breaths to begin with. I'm going to inhale, feeling the tip of your nose. And exhale, feeling the tip of your nose. Inhale, feeling the tip of your nose. And exhale, feeling the tip of your nose. And now feel your eyes. Let your eyes just soften. And in your imagination, let the outer corners of your eyes smile. And then feel the inside of your mouth. And let the inside of your mouth smile. Okay, now you can open your eyes and smile, for real smile. Turn to the person next to you and just say, I'm so glad you're here. And receive that. Receive, I'm so glad you're here. How do you feel? Brighter, right? Feel brighter. What you do impacts how you feel. The gospel puts it this way. Wherever you put your treasure, there your heart will be also. Not the other way around. It's usually, for most of us, not about where we put our heart first. It's first about where we put our treasure. Because where you put your treasure, which is your attention, your time, your finances, your energy, wherever you put your treasure, your heart, your feelings, your thoughts will follow. For most of us, sudden enlightenment and complete conversion is rare. But acting faithfully, regardless of how you feel, is a far more common path to transformation and to putting on the mind of Christ. When you act in faith, in other words, when you pray, when you give, when you reach out, when you share, when you smile, then you begin to find that your feelings of trust and your thoughts of faith follow along. So if you're waiting to tithe, or to forgive, or to pray until you feel like it, you might be waiting a very long time. Artists and athletes know about this. Writers do not normally wait for the muse to strike, and they feel like writing. They sit down at their desk every day and write. And some of them even set out, the number of words they are committed to putting down on paper, whether they feel like it or not. And athletes, anyone on an athletic team, right? It doesn't matter whether you feel like going to practice or not. Your coach expects you to be there. And if you're going to get good, you're there. You put on your gear and you do your exercises regardless of whether you want to or not on that particular day or on that particular stretch of days. Musicians, you practice those scales, arpeggios, whether you feel like it or not. You just practice. That's how you get good. You do the practice and the feelings follow. So if you want your faith to grow and you prefer to live with trust rather than fear, this annual campaign time is a great time to practice. Now when you hold your pledge card, here's a pledge card, it's the front of it. On the back of it is a table called Proportional Giving Table. So I suggest that when you take your pledge card, you look at the back first, and like so for instance, let's say your income is $60,000, if you give 1% a week now, this would be $12 a week. And you might decide, okay, I'm going to give 3%. That would be $35 a week. And this chart goes all the way up to 15% because some people are more on the Zacchaeus side of things. They give beyond 10%. This is a great way to just look and see where you're at. So if you want to exercise grow these feelings of trust, living without fear, look at the back side first and determine what percent of your income do you want to offer to God. Then turn it around and write that on the front. So experiment. So I'm suggesting that you experiment, try it for a few years, see what happens. The gospel tells us that experienced tithers will tell you that good happens. That your commitment to your friendship with God grows, that your feelings for the church and this community grow, and that you have enough. That you have enough. More than enough. Now, this doesn't mean that there are not temptations along the way. There are times when I think, gosh, my pledge are a little bit smaller, I can do such and such. Whatever such and such is at the time. In the beginning of my tithing practice, I would say to myself, well, it's only for this year. I can do it differently next year. Now, I am committed for so many reasons, some of them spiritual, and some of them just plain out practical. I'm a better steward of my resources. I have gained immeasurably from adopting a simpler lifestyle. I have been saved from several very stupid decisions. One strategy I use when I'm tempted about my pledge, because of something I want, I don't reject that want outright. I don't reject it. I just wait until later. I say, okay, I'm going to think about that later. And you know, by the time later comes around, I usually find that I no longer really want whatever that thing was. And if I do want what that thing was, then that tells me it is a seasoned desire. And with creativity, there is always some way of accomplishing it. We all have different ways of dealing with temptation. But no Christian, I'm telling you this, my friends, no Christian, no person of faith gets away without being tempted repeatedly. It's part of the scenario. It's just part of it. The point is, when you're tempted, what do you do? What do you do? Now, prayer is always a good thing if you can remember to pray. Talking to somebody is always a good thing if you can get yourself to open up about whatever the issue is. Or deliberately acting contrary to the temptation. You're tempted to give, far less than 1% of your income. Write down 2%. Go in the opposite direction. The point is, we need to be at least as wily as the evil one who causes us confusion and sows dissatisfaction. We can be just as creative in moving forward in faith as the one who wants to obstruct our path. Zacchaeus gave half of all he had, and 4 times as much if he discovered he had cheated anyone. I am convinced this is not the reason Jesus came home with him. I think Jesus came home with him because he needed a good lunch, and Zacchaeus was lost and lonely. He needed someone who saw him, who really saw him. Not his disability, not his occupation, not his wealth, not even his generosity, but him, who saw him and loved him regardless. Whether it was a crook or a generous, righteous man, who saw him and loved him. But I also think that Zacchaeus' practice of meeting the temptations of tax collecting, of which there were many, tax collectors were expected to be crooked. His practice of meeting temptation with vigorous generosity, coupled with his longing to see the Lord, I imagine that this drew Jesus' attention and drew Jesus to tell him over the friendship of a good meal, to tell him that salvation is here. It is yours. It is yours. So my friends, if we have anxiety about not having enough, and who of us does not? Who of us does not? Especially if we have anxiety about not having enough. May we practice trust. May we act generously. May we put our treasure where we want our hearts to go. Okay. Breathe in. Breathe out. Smiling at the corner of your eyes. Smiling on the inside of your mouth. Now tell yourself, today salvation has come to my home. Today salvation has come to me. Tell somebody else, today salvation is yours. Today salvation is yours.
Today salvation is yours.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Amen and amen.